Hey everybody, this is Soger. This is going to be my city-state tier list, and I'll also just describe strategies involving each city-state if it's relevant when I get to them. Before that, let me just get this out of the way. For people who are unfamiliar with me, I play single-player deity or higher difficulty, and my goal every single game is to win in the fewest turns possible. This is important because if you play a more casual game or multiplayer, these strategies or these rankings may not make sense to you because they aren't for the way that you are playing. This is all just, hey, will this city state help you win the game faster? All right, so now let's look at how I'm going to be ranking these city states. One, I'm only going to do our S, A, B, and C tier. S tier is in every situation, you should do everything in your power to get cesareity of the city state. It is one of the most important things in the game. A tier is in almost every situation, this city state's going to help. B tier is you're situational. If your situation meets its needs, it will help, but there will also be situations where it doesn't help. And then C tier is going to be city states that the only reason to ever get cesareity of them is for utility purposes, to do a levy war, to get early exploration, stuff like that. When I'm judging these city states, that's going to be judged by how good their ability is length of game, because there's plenty of city states that are very, very good at the end game, but that doesn't matter. The majority of the game is the early mid game, obviously. End game doesn't really have that much effect on the outcome. So it's going to be length of game, how important is their ability, what their ability actually provides, obviously, and finally, the general use of the ability. Like, how often are you going to be able to use it? So something that is very situational, obviously, is going to rank lower than something that will improve every single game. All right, let's get going into the rankings. Scientific city states are the third weakest or fourth strongest when looking at just the envoy bonus. They provide one science in your capital and one science in every city with the library built. This was actually a little bit harder for me to decide which one was weaker. Faith city states are scientific city states. On the one hand, science just isn't really helpful for expansion in the early game. Once you get animal husbandry, mining, and then your trade district of choice, it isn't really providing much for expansion. Yes, it does give access to units and stuff, but in most cases, going to war early is a gamble, and it's better to just try and pump out cities and eventually go to war or do a war of opportunity with like a city state levy, something like that. But on the other hand, faith city states, if you don't get a religion, aren't really providing you anything except for access to your pantheon. But overall, just because so many strategies revolve around getting a religion, and religion has such strong, or faith has such strong synergy with monumentality, I had it irk out scientific city states just a bit. Our scientific city state is Anshan. They provide two science for each great work of writing or one science for each relic or artifact. This is just incredibly weak. This is not a good bonus. You're getting your first great work of writing like late classical era, unless you buy it with faith or gold. And relics and artifacts, your access to them comes much later than that. I mean, I guess you can get a relic from a goody hut at any time, but if you're looking at an actual controllable source of relics, you're looking at apostles. So by the time you can utilize the Caesarium bonus, two or one science isn't really doing much. You need so many great works of writing, or relics, or artifacts for this to have like any noticeable impact. By the time you're getting any amount of science, the game is over. It looks nice in the great works viewer, but this is definitely a C tier. The next scientific state is Bologna. Their Caesarean bonus is you get +1 great person point for every district with a building, and the theater square districts provide +1 great person point for the type of great work that's stored in the building. So amphitheater would give great writing points, museums would give great artist point, and broadcast center would give great musician points. This is just a universally strong city state. Obviously, it pays off a lot more in the early mid game when great person costs are lower. But once you have Caesarity of this in a district, you're getting a bonus every turn. It pays off great. The bigger your empire, the bigger the bonus. It helps secure for every victory type. So this is definitely an A tier city state. There's really no complaints on this whatsoever. The next scientific say state is Fez, and Fez is the most situational of the situational city states. I like to say they have the worst ability with the most useful uses. Their bonus is the first time you convert a city to your religion, you get 20 science for each of their followers. Now, the important thing to know about this is it has to be through a religious unit's charge. You can't use religious combat, although Basil can get or trigger this bonus through combat. But for every other civ, you need to use a charge. You can't use religious combat. You can't use your per turn religion. It has to be a charge, which is the first problem with it. The second problem is 20 science per population isn't really much outside of the early game. So you're never really receiving that much science. If you get an early religion in like the ancient era or early classical era, you can flip some cities, and it does a lot better there. As even just 20 science is already half the amount of a science pillage at that stage of the game. But where I think this ability really, really shines is at the end of the game, because of the way science per turn works. No matter how much science per turn you have, you can only unlock one technology per turn with your science. Although, if you have enough overflow to unlock two technologies, if you generate any science on your turn, you'll unlock the second technology. So you can unlock two technologies per turn as long as you have enough science for them. That makes pillaging and fez and great people the only ways to generate science on your turn. So, if you don't have anyone to go to war with and you don't have a great scientist, you can unlock two technologies at the end of the game per turn by flipping a one population city or larger. It's a very specific use. It's not going to come up often, but that's nice. Also, a fun, or I don't know if fun's the right word, but an extremely powerful strategy with the Khmer and Fez. If you find it very, very early, you can do a culture to followers religion, and then by having Fez and converting all of your own cities with missionaries, rush aqueducts and commercial hubs, and basically by the end of the ancient era, be like so far ahead of everyone else. Like that's like probably peak Fez right there. And no surprise, it's with Khmer, who is the strongest civ in the game. The next scientific city state is Geneva, and their bonus is 15% more science when you aren't at war with any other civilization. This is an incredibly strong ability with a terrible caveat. Like the reality is, if you're playing for the fastest victory possible, you're going to be at war with people. You're going to be looking at maybe 30, 40 turns where you're not at war with somebody. So you're just not seeing this bonus often enough. If you're playing like a pacifist game, this is obviously like an A or an S tier city state because it is actually really strong. But in a normal anything goes game, you're just not going to not be at war often enough for this to pay off. This would be B tier because there still will be those turns you're not at war and you're going to see the bonus from this. The next scientific city state is Hatsa, and their ability is you get 2 units of any strategic resource you've unlocked but have not improved yet. And this is really a nothing ability. If you have no access to the resource in your territory, this is better, obviously. But in most cases, by about the midpoint of the game, you're going to have access to the majority of resources. So it's saving you like 3 or 4 turns while you're moving a builder over there to improve it. I know every single person has a game where they didn't have access to oil or niter, and the city state like saved the day. But in a general situation, this is just a nothing ability. This is C tier. The next scientific city-state is Mitla, and their Caesarean bonus is city growth rate is 15% higher in cities with a campus. This just goes against how I or what I view is the best way to play the game, and that is to have the minimum amount of population to have the maximum amount of districts you need. And the problem there is no situation in where you're building a campus before a trade district in most strategies. It's almost always better to build your trade district first, and then a campus if you're playing a non-faith game. If you're playing a faith-based game, it's obviously going to be better to go holy site, trade district, and then campus. So in both situations, you're getting the majority of your important growth done before a campus gets in there, and now we're just increasing the growth rate in a city that I don't really care if it grows anymore. Obviously, your capital and some of your strong first cities, this will help out. But overall, this is going to rank a lot lower for me than it probably will for the majority of people, just because of the very specific way that I play. But for me, this is C tier. It's just not provide. It's actually providing me something I don't want in a lot of cases. The next scientific city-state is Nalanda, and their Caesarean bonus is you get a unique tile improvement that provides 2 science per turn, and then 1 science or 1 faith if it's built next to a holy site or campus. The most important part of this is you get a free technology the first time you build this tile improvement. So a technology for a builder charge is enough to put this in B tier. This is enough to put this into high B tier. Overall, 2 science per turn onto a tile isn't that strong. It does provide full housing, which means that this is a cheaper alternative to granary to reach a 7 population city very easily. It provides more housing than a farm, but it doesn't help with growth. And really, just science as a yield for most of the game for me, I just don't utilize or I don't need that much extra of it. By the time I'm looking to generate science, I'm going all in and doing campus projects and stuff like that. And seeing as this can't be built on tiles with like any other feature on it, you're usually going to have either low growth or low production on the tile, so it doesn't really have a home. So yeah, this just puts it in B tier because you get a free technology when you build it. The final scientific city state is Taruga, and their Caesarean bonus is you get plus 5% science in all cities for each different strategic resource they have. This is an A tier ability right now. Like if it was just any resource, it would be like way up at the top of S tier. But just because strategic resources are dispersed throughout the map randomly, you can run into a situation where you're not going to be able to utilize this as much. But the improbability that you'll have no bonus from this is so high, that you're going to see something every game. The fact that this can outperform the Geneva scientific bonus for some states is also really, really nice. If you like happen to settle a perfect city that has like 4 different strategic resources, you're going to be generating so much science, and there's no caveat to this. This is just a strong from the turn you unlock it till the end of the game. Strong city state bonus, definitely A tier. Thank you for watching my video. If you want to click the playlist, you can watch the other city-state categories and follow along for the other city-state categories I haven't finished recording yet. Thank you for watching, and bye.